So, Lord, be with us as we go into this chapter. Be with me. Speak to me and speak to us so we can understand. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Perhaps my favorite actor of all time is Johnny Depp. I know people are kind of giving him a hard time now because they haven't seen him in movies for a while, and he's kind of running around with his rock band. But he's getting older. But in his prime, and in the prime of his career, he did a great series, Pirates of the Caribbean. I remember as a little kid going to Disney World and riding on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And in the ride, they would have, as you're going in that little boat, in Disney World, like every ride was basically the same. It was just, they had like a different theme that you were riding. Like I remember riding the same exact ride and a Winnie the Pooh just came out. Same thing with It's a Small World After All. You're on a little boat and you see little dolls. But in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, you're riding in a boat and you see little characters. You see Barbossa and you see Jack Sparrow, and they talk in that pirate voice. And it's all cool and it's exciting that, set sail on the seven seas. It sounds cool. It's awesome. I love pirate stuff. I love Pirates of the Caribbean and Treasure Island. And I just love that whole concept of sailing. It seems like a lot of fun. It's full of adventure. Well, Paul, here in the Bible, kind of was pretty bored because for 2 years he was stuck in a prison, but he was about to get on a boat and he was about to set sail, and he was going to have enough adventure in this one moment to make up for the 2 years. Let's look here at Acts chapter 27. Acts chapter 27. It says, and when it was decided that we should set sail to Italy, because remember, he said, I want to go to see Caesar. I want to appeal to Caesar. So he's going to travel to Italy where Rome is. And so when it was decided that he should set sail to Italy, they delivered Paul and some other prisoners to one named Julius, a centurion of the Augustan regiment. So entering a ship of Adramyttium, we put to sea, meaning to sail along the coast of Asia. So back then, this was the fastest form of transportation. You get on a boat, and then what they wanted to do was just kind of sail along the coast, stay nearby, so whenever they needed to stop, they can always go to a port, eat, relax, things like that. So they were sailing along the coast of Asia. Now we travel. You don't need to take a boat, right? You don't need to do that. All you need to do is get on a plane, right? Or sometimes even you can get on a train, and some of these trains like the Amtrak and the Metro North, they go pretty fast and they get you to your destination. Well, unless you're gonna get on a chariot or like a wagon, you better take a boat. So since they were transporting all these people, they didn't have a bus or anything like that. So they got on a boat and they were sailing along the coast of Asia, traveling north. And so it says, Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, was with us. You remember, he was in a couple of chapters prior where he was kind of with Paul as one part of his team. And so it said, so as you saw here, Luke said we should set sail. So it's kind of interesting because Paul, although he was a prisoner and he was traveling with a bunch of prisoners to Italy, they allowed Luke, the writer here, as well as this other guy, Aristarchus, and maybe some others in Paul's team, entourage, to travel with him. That just shows that Paul had a good reputation. I mean, normally if you are a Roman citizen, they allow you to bring a slave, and they allow you to bring a physician, your physician. So maybe Luke got in because he was a physician, and maybe, well, I don't think Aristarchus was a slave or a servant, but it was like, hey, I'm here to help Paul. And maybe some others came with him as well. So his Roman birth gave him some privileges, and maybe him being having a good reputation, knowing that this guy is not that guilty, they allowed him some privilege to kind of have some travel companions. Or maybe they might have wished that they didn't travel with Paul for this adventure. So they got in, and so it says Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, was with us. And the next day, we landed at Sidon. You know Sidon. You know, it was constantly mentioned in the Bible, Tyre and Sidon, very popular cities. This is a port city. So they got there to Sidon. And Julius treated Paul kindly and gave him liberty to go with his friends and receive care. Whoa. This is pretty amazing. To go with his friends. He allowed his friends to come, but also he allowed them to go with his friends. So when they stopped at Sidon, Julius trusted Paul to leave the boat, leave the other prisoners, go with your friends and get some care. In other words, receive some hospitality. Go sleep in a home or relax, go get some food. I mean, how many prisoners get that level of freedom, right? I trust you, Paul. Go ahead. You can leave and just come back here to get back into your chains. But it just shows that Paul was building good relationships, you know? If people didn't hate him for his religion, it was like they loved him, right? It's like you saw how Agrippa took out time to listen to him. Felix, they built like a bond over the 2 years, and everybody seemed to kind of respect him. The only people who hated him were really those Jews that want him dead. Well, he was getting far from them. He was traveling far away to Italy. And so Julius treated him kindly, gave him liberty to go with his friends and receive care. Go and have a little fun before we get back onto the sea. Verse 4. When we had put to sea from there, we sailed under the shelter of Cyprus because the winds were contrary. So, in other words, as they were traveling along the coast, they made sure to stay on the east side of Cyprus because the winds were coming, and at least by traveling on the east side, on the side of the island, the wind would not hit them as hard. It's getting kind of windy now. It's getting a little tough. It was like foreshadowing of something to come. So let's travel and use Cyprus as like a block to the wind. And when we had sailed over the sea, which is off Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. So there they are in the Mediterranean Sea, and they go to this island, and they came to Myra, a city of Lycia. So this area, not an island yet. They go to this coast. This area is called Lycia, and they go to one of the cities, Myra. There, the centurion found an Alexandrian ship sailing to Italy, and he put us on board. Alexandrian ship. This is from the city Alexandria, which is in Egypt. This was a very commercial city. And it was called Alexandria because Alexander the Great had conquered the world at one point before the Roman Empire conquered the world. And so Alexander the Great conquered the world, and he set up a place called Alexandria. And so because it was a very commerce leaning city, heavy saturated city, they had these things called the Alexandrian ships. These were like cargo ships. These were huge. This is like the biggest ships available. And so since the centurion found an Alexandrian ship sailing to Italy, he put us on board. Hey, if you're going to Italy, that's where we're going. Can we hitch a ride with you? They were probably on just some regular ship. But since the wind was picking up, we need a real ship, like that ship, that huge Alexandrian ship. Let's take that ship. Let's travel on that. That way we can have a good, sizable, strong ship that can handle the wind and the storms that come. So they put us on the board. You know, probably they didn't want, maybe the sailors didn't want them on, but if a centurion asks you as a sailor to let them on board, what, you think they had a choice? No, probably not, right? Maybe these were Egyptians, being that they were from Egypt. And so these guys, since Rome was the conquerors of the world, the centurion saw the Alexandrian ship, and it didn't say he asked. He just put them on board. That's it. These poor sailors didn't know what they were up for. I guess they had already delivered most of their cargo, so they had plenty of space for all these prisoners, so they got into the ship. So they put us on board. And when we had sailed slowly, many days. See, that's like the pros and cons of having a small ship and a big ship. A big ship like this for the cargo and stuff, although it was strong and sturdy, it's not that fast. But slow and steady can win the race. And so when we had sailed slowly many days and arrived with difficulty off Cnidus, the wind not permitting us to proceed. See, not only was the ship big, and maybe that's why I was moving slow, but the wind was really in their way, and they could not continue to move forward. We sailed, because the wind was not permitting us to proceed, we sailed under the shelter of Crete off Salmone. And so, in other words, they went towards the south side because the wind was strong. They couldn't travel in a straight beeline to Italy. So they had to kind of take a detour and try to use an island as shelter from the wind again. And they traveled under the south side of Crete off Salmone. Passing it with difficulty, we came to a place called Fair Havens, near the city of Lasea. So this is on the island of Crete, and there was a port on the south side, in the lower corner, and they went there, and the place was called Safe Havens. Now that sounds like a good place to kind of rest for a while. It's called Fair Havens. So hey, let's take a break. This is a difficult travel. The winds are picking up. Why don't we just stay here at Fair Havens for a while? So they were near a good city, the city of Lasea. So hey, let's stay here for a while. Verse 9. Now when much time was spent and sailing was now dangerous because the fast was already over. What does the fast have to do with anything? The fast dealing with the fast in terms of the Day of Atonement, most likely they're talking about. And so that lets you know that during that time period, this is around the time of October. So in other words, winter is coming, meaning that being that it's winter, the water, the sea is not a friendly place to be. And so people don't normally travel that much during the winter because the storms are so bad. And they knew it was too dangerous because it's already past the time of this major fast. Paul advised them, saying, "Men, I perceive that this voyage will end with disaster and much loss." You see, they were staying at Fair Haven for a good while. They were just trying to buy their time. They were waiting there for a while, staying there at Fair Haven, hoping that the wind would subside. But they started to realize it's not getting any better. It's getting worse. And the later we go, the more closer we are to the winter. And winter time, forget it. We can't travel in the winter. So Paul told them, "Man, I perceive that this voyage will end with disaster." I have a strong feeling on this one. Guys, I think this is not going to end good for us. And much loss. This is going to end in disaster, and we're going to lose a lot. Not only the cargo and ship, but also our lives. What are we going to lose? We're going to lose the ship. We're going to lose the cargo. We're going to lose our lives. We're going to die. I don't want to go. I think we need to stay right here where it's called Fair Haven. Well, come on. You would expect a prisoner to say that, right? A prisoner says, I don't want to keep on going. I think we should stay right here. Okay, sure. Good, nice one. Good try. We're going to keep on traveling to Italy like you guys asked, like you asked, Paul, and the rest of the prisoners. We got to get you out of here. We're not going to stay here. We got to move. And so they didn't listen. Verse 11, nevertheless, the centurion Julius was more persuaded by the helmsman, the guy who was in charge of sailing the ship, and the owner of the ship, than the things spoken by Paul. Paul, you're a prisoner. I mean, I like you a lot. I think you're a good guy, but the master of the ship and the owner of the ship, they're both telling me we got to move. I mean, think about it. I mean, the owner of the ship, these guys are just hitchhikers. I mean, he wants to get back. He wants to get to Italy like he was planning and take care of his business. And the sailor, he knows the seas. He could tell you, if like, listen, that's a prisoner. What is he? What is he? He used to be a teacher, a rabbi? Come on. I know the seas. Trust me, we can sail. We should sail now, in fact. So the centurion listened to them. By the way, you notice how the centurion's in charge? He just commandeered the ship. He just took over. So he listened to the helmsman, the master sailor, and the owner of the ship, rather than the things spoken by Paul. And because the harbor was not suitable to winter in. You want to stay here for the whole winter, Paul? I don't think that's a good idea. This, although this is Fair Haven, this is like more of a summer resort. I don't know if we should be here in the winter. This is not a good place for winter harboring. So because the harbor was not suitable to winter in, the majority advised to set sail from there also. So everybody besides Paul was saying, we got to move. But everybody, all the crew, they were telling the centurion, I think we need to leave. And we got to leave now. We cannot be here for winter. So much work, right? So much work back then to travel. One of my friends, I have two friends that are a couple, and the wife, she loves going on cruises. She loves that, and when she heard that me and my family, we went on a cruise some time ago, she's like, oh, really? That's so amazing. That's so awesome. What was it like? She wants to go on a cruise so bad, and she keeps telling her husband, you hear that? We got to go on a cruise. And my friend was like, there is no way I'm stepping foot on the ship. He's like, why not? Like, bad things happen on ships. Come on, you got to get on here. You got to get on the boat. This is good. And I'm telling him, yeah, if you get on the boat, you don't really feel anything. These ships are so large now, it just feels solid, We can play like Jenga in our room. Like, what Jenga, you're like, it's like a balance with sticks and stuff. Come on, if the boat is sturdy enough to play Jenga, you can get on that ship. It's like, no. Every ship has movement, he said. I don't trust ships. I was like, yeah, that's true. I mean, my sister was throwing up a lot. It was like, yeah, I'm definitely not going on a ship. And my friend, she's like, Wayne, come on. We're trying to convince him to take me on a cruise. Well, he was determined to never go on a cruise. Finally, like the last time I saw him, he told me, you know what? To make my wife happy, I'm gonna go on that cruise and I'm just gonna try to be brave. But he has good reason. The seas is like a primitive form of transportation. That's some dangerous stuff. Look at this. These people right now are trapped here at Fair Havens. They're like, we cannot stay here because winter is dangerous for where we are. We got to get out of here. And they convinced the centurion to set sail from there also, if by any means they could reach Phoenix. In other words, listen, we cannot stay here. At the very least, let's at least get to Phoenix. That's another part of the island. At least that port is going to be a better port. It'll be a safer port for us during the winter time. So if by any means they could reach Phoenix, a harbor of Crete, opening towards southwest and northwest and winter there. In other words, that corner of the island. Let's at least try to get there, if anything. Paul told them, he warned them, he's like, I got a feeling this is not going to end good. But all the professionals would say, no, it's either now or never. We got to leave. When the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, putting out to sea, they sailed close by Crete. In other words, before the winds were tough, but now that the wind kind of started to calm down, it was blowing only softly. Okay, guys, this is our opportunity. We got to move now. While the winds are good, let's get on the boat and let's set sail. And so they set sail, and they sailed close by Crete. They didn't want to venture far because, hey, they got to get to the next port, Phoenix. And so they're trying to stay along the coast there. And they set sail close by Crete. But not long after, a tempestuous headwind arose called Euroclydon. Now a wind is bad when you got to name it. You know what I'm saying? Like when we have bad storms, we give it a name. This thing had the name Euroclydon. In other words, this meant a strong east wind that creates great large waves. It's kind of like calling something that a typhoon is coming. And so this huge wind came and hit them hard. So when the ship was caught, they could not head into the wind. We let her drive. In other words, since we could not sail against the wind, we just allowed the wind to take us wherever it wanted to take us. We just let the wind drive us. Now, they should never have gotten off that port. Since they got off that port, they thought the coast was clear. The wind calmed down. Let's go. And when they ventured out, everything was fine for a while. But as they started to get close to their destination, the big wind hit, the big waves hit, and it started to push them. And eventually they realized, listen, we can't sail. Just let the boat move wherever it needs to move. Uh-oh. Now they're in trouble. So when the ship was caught, they could not head into the wind. We let her drive. Verse 16. And running under the shelter of an island called Clauda, we secured the skiff with difficulty. In other words, the wind was blowing them and they couldn't have control over the ship. They just let the ship move. And after some time, they got behind another island, Clauda, a small island. And when they got behind that Clauda, the wind wasn't as strong. So they used that opportunity to go grab the skiff. The skiff is their lifeboat. We might need this. So let's secure this safely. Right now, the wind is blowing, the rain is pouring, and right now they know this is a dangerous situation. They're going to need that lifeboat. That lifeboat is probably taking in a lot of water. The waves are probably banging into that lifeboat on the side of their ship. Get that ship on board. And so they started to pull the ship with great difficulty. It wasn't easy. Because when the wind was that bad and the waves were that bad and all the water that was in that lifeboat was there, it made it heavier. And so, try to pull that in. But they had to, because if this ship goes down, we're going to need that lifeboat. So once they got behind and had the shelter of the island called Clauda, we secured the skiff with difficulty. When they had taken it on board, they used cables to undergird the ship, fearing lest they should run aground on the Syrtis sands. They struck sail and were driven. In other words, after they got the skiff on board, we got to do something, guys. This storm is real bad. Euroclydon is tough. What are we going to do? So they went and got some cables. They got some rope, and they threw it overboard, and they tried to use it to kind of undergird the ship. In other words, they had to tie the ship, bind it up from underneath. So they try to get the rope underneath the ship, tie it to kind of secure it so that as the waves are busting the ship, they would have it nice and tight. They try to secure the boat as tight as possible because as the waves are boom, they knew that the beams of the ship could start cracking and the bolts would start loosening. Tighten this ship up, boys. This was dangerous stuff. Paul told them we should have stayed in Fairhaven. But this is some dangerous stuff, and so they needed to take it. But then they realized, wait a minute. They feared lest they should run aground on the Syrtis sands. The Syrtis sands, in other words, because the wind was blowing them towards the south. They knew that under them, what they were heading for was Africa. And Africa, at the coast of Africa there, in that wing of Africa, they knew that along the coast was the Syrtis sands. The Syrtis sands had a bad reputation. It's kind of like today we talk about the Bermuda Triangle, right? We don't, as sailors, you don't go through the Bermuda Triangle. Well, you don't go to the Syrtis sands. To see the Syrtis sands, as some translations put it, it's called quicksand. You see, because the water is so shallow that as a ship, if you hit that sand, you are stuck because it's like a slimy kind of sand, shallow water. And so if they were to crash into that ground, they'll be stuck. So many ships have become shipwrecked in the Syrtis sands. So many sailors lost their lives at the Syrtis sands. Nobody sails there. And so when they realize we're heading in that direction, they realized we got to do something. They struck sail. In other words, they took down their, because before they just kind of let the wind blow their ship wherever. They realized having the sail up is a bad idea. And so they took down the sail, most likely the yard sail, and they took down that sail and brought it down. And they allowed the wind to drive them. So at least it wouldn't drive them with such force like having the they thought they could just use the wind to their advantage and move. But take that sail down because we are moving too fast in the wrong direction. Take it down. And so we're driven. And because we were exceedingly tempest-tossed, the next day they lightened the ship. Guys, men, this ship, I don't know if we're going to make it. We need to start throwing things overboard. We got to lighten this ship because with the water coming in, we might start sinking. So we need to start taking the water out. We got to start throwing some stuff out of here. So they started to lighten the ship. On the third day, days are passing, and they're still stuck in this storm. This is a long storm. On the third day, we threw the ship's tackle overboard with our own hands. See, before they were just trying to keep the ship light, get the water out of here, throw some stuff. But once they realized this is the third day this storm is happening, the wind is still hitting us. The wind is still blowing on us. The waves are still hitting us. We're still too heavy. We got to start getting rid of some tackle, some gear, some shipping gear. You know you're desperate when you're getting rid of your tools. And so they start throwing that stuff overboard, hoping that would keep them light, keep them afloat. At this point, it's survival mode. So they started taking the stuff and throwing it overboard, tossing it out with their own hands. In other words, the people themselves, like Luke and Andrew, all these guys, Aristarchus, all these guys had to get involved. Everybody, get your hands and start helping out. Get this stuff off the boat. Things were serious. Things were hitting hard. Now, when neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, no small tempest beat on us. All hope that we would be saved was finally given up. They were in survival mode. But once they realized this storm was not lighting up, they gave up. They realized we're not going to be saved. We're not going to survive this. They didn't even see the sun or the stars. It was just dark. No day, no night, just darkness. Sometimes in our lives, we're going through a massive storm. And sometimes this storm is not something that we chose. Like Paul told him, I don't want to go. And sometimes we don't put ourselves in that situation, but sometimes the storms of life hit us, and they hit us hard. And sometimes it seems like there is no end in sight. It just seems like days are passing, and we don't even know what day it is. We don't know if it's daytime. We don't know if it's nighttime. It's just, our life is just dark. And it's in those moments that we feel helpless and we just like kind of let go of life. We kind of just give up. We feel like us being saved, us having a better life, give up on that dream. The people felt helpless. They finally given up. After long abstinence from food, then Paul stood in the midst of them and said, "Man, you should have listened to me and have not sailed from Crete and incurred this disaster and loss. Why didn't you listen? I'm starving here. I'm wet. I'm tired. I'm cold. You should have listened. We should have not left Crete." We would not have incurred this disaster and loss. And now, I urge you to take heart. It's your fault. All you guys, it's your fault if you just listen to me. But since you didn't listen to me and you guys are about to give up on life, let me try to give you encouragement. Take heart. Guys, get your courage back up. For there will be no loss of life among you. Nobody is going to die. Don't give up on me now. You got to get me to Italy. And remember, I mean, these are his sailors. Paul doesn't know how to sail. So Paul is trying to give him a pep talk. It's like, guys, wait. Don't giving up just now. I'm mad. I'm really mad at you. You guys should have listened to me. But if you guys are since you didn't listen to me and you guys are about to give up, guys, I want to give you a promise. Nobody's going to die. Get your hearts back in order. No loss of life will take place except this ship. This ship, but only for the ship. This ship is going down. We cannot save this ship. This ship will fall. We will lose the ship. But at least for us, we're not going to die. I'm giving you that promise, guys. But I need you guys to take heart. Like, get some strength. Get some courage. Get me out of here. Why? How do you know that, Paul? Why are you so confident? Because for there stood by me this night an angel of the God to whom I belong. No, not your God, not no Roman God, not any Egyptian God. My God, the God whom I belong to. One of his angels stood by me at this night, and whom I serve. I belong to God, I serve God, and one of his angels stood by me, saying, "Do not be afraid, Paul." Paul clearly was afraid. He had his heart set on Rome. And he told them, please don't leave Fairhaven. They didn't listen to him. They left. And now he was afraid. He was starving. He couldn't eat anything because probably if you try to eat something, you couldn't keep it down. All of it was pure chaos. In the middle of the night, an angel came to him to give him some encouragement. Told him, do not be afraid, Paul. You must be brought before Caesar. And indeed, God has granted you all those who sail with you. Just like how Jesus appeared in his cell and told him to cheer up. You got to get that message out to Rome. Now an angel is sent to him in the middle of that storm, telling him, don't be afraid. You got to go to Caesar. You're going to make it to Caesar. And everybody, because they're near you, they're going to survive. Good thing they were traveling with Paul, right? Sometimes if you're not right with God, sometimes it's good to be around people who are right with God so you can get some of that protection. I'm sticking with you, bro. And so the angel told him, you will be okay. And everybody who is with you, their life will be spared. Therefore, take heart, men. Take heart. Toughen up. Braven up. Take heart, men. For I believe, God, that it will be just as it was told me. See, God had to remind him. God already gave him a promise. His message will get to Rome. And sometimes we forget the promises of God. And sometimes in our lives, we get afraid of the darkness and the storms hitting our life. And we forget that God has promised us something, that God is going to be there for us. And sometimes we are afraid. And that's why God has to send us messages to re-encourage us. And so since Paul was re-encouraged, he had to encourage them. You see, Paul could have been like, you know what? God told me I'm going to survive. I could just relax. But, faith without works is dead. So once he got that promise from the angel, he went right to them and was like, guys, God told me we're getting out of here. So let's get out of here. Toughen up. Stop being scared. Get on the sails and let's get out of this place. So he tells them, take heart. Take heart. Take heart, men, for I believe God that it will be just as it was told me. However, we must run aground on a certain island. We're going to survive, and you guys got to be brave. However, here's the plan. We got to crash this ship. Say what now? Yeah, we got to run this ship to the ground. What? This sounds like some pirates, some Jack Sparrow type of harebrained scheme. In order to survive, we got to crash this boat. This sounds so crazy, it just might work. We got to run this ship aground on a certain island. I don't know what island is around, but we got to find an island and crash into it. All right, boys? Because this ship is going down. I know that. Remember he told me, I assure you, we're going to survive, but the ship won't. So this ship is going down. I'd rather it go down near an island. I don't plan to be in the middle of the ocean for days, just floating around. Let's crash into an island. But when the 14th night had come, these guys are we're in the thick of it. 14 days just trying to battle the storm. When the 14th night had come and we were driven up and down the Adriatic Sea, they're just getting all over the place. They got out of the Mediterranean Sea. Now they're in the Adriatic Sea and they're just bumping up and down. About midnight, the sailors sensed that they were drawing near some land. I think there's some land over here. And they took soundings and found it to be 20 fathoms, sounding that they would throw like a lead attached to a rope into the water. This is like a sounding line, and they would try to figure out how deep was the water, and they figured it was 20 fathoms. Fathom is about 2 yards, so 20 or 40 yards deep. And when they had gone a little further, they took soundings again and found it to be 15 fathoms, only 30 yards deep. Guys, we're getting close. We're getting close to land. They couldn't see anything. They couldn't see the stars. They couldn't see the sun. They couldn't see any land, but they could sense, and using the soundings, they knew that they were getting closer to ground. But then, fearing lest they should run aground on the rocks, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for day to come. These people started praying. They may not have been God believers, but they started praying to some God. They dropped down those anchors. But Paul told them, here's the strategy. We need to crash this ship. No, they didn't like that idea. No. This is not a sailor strategy, crashing a ship. Let's put the anchors down. Let's just pray for daylight. They had not seen day for so long. 14 days had passed. They were just praying, please, can we see some sunlight so we can try to sail and see where we're going? They prayed for day to come. And as the sailors were seeking to escape from the ship, you heard that? The sailors were like, you know what? We are close to the ground. We are close to some island somewhere. We're close to land. So the sailors got together and said, you know what? Why don't we leave this centurion and these prisoners and get out of here? Let's take the skiff, let's take the lifeboat, and let's just get off on our own. We have a better chance of surviving if we leave by ourselves. So they were ready to escape from the ship. And as the sailors were seeking to escape from the ship, when they had let down the skiff into the sea, started trying to lower it down quietly, hoping none of the Roman soldiers found out. Under pretense of putting out anchors from the prow. So in other words, like, the sailors just went over there to the prow of the ship and said, guys, we're just going to go over here. All of you guys? Yeah, all of us. We're going to go over here. We're going to let down an anchor. But they weren't letting down an anchor. They were letting down the lifeboat, hoping that nobody noticed what they were up to. And so as they were lowering it down, pretending they were lowering down an anchor, Paul said to the centurion, hey. Paul said to the centurion and the soldiers, unless these men stay in the ship, you cannot be saved. Paul riding them out like, well, I'm surviving today. They're not getting out. The sailors, how are we going to sail the ship if the sailors are gone? So he told on them, tattletale, stop them. Stop those guys. If they get out, we're all dead. Then the soldiers cut away the ropes from the skiff and let it fall off. Like, you guys are not escaping. They just cut the lifeboat, gone. Like, no lifeboat. None of us are getting out. If you don't sail this ship to safety, all of us are dying. We're cutting the lifeboat off. You're either with us, or we all survive, or we all die. Poor sailors, man. They just got hijacked. Now they can't even take their lifeboat out. They did all that work to save the lifeboat, but like, nope, we're not keeping this lifeboat. Nope. That's not happening. And so, oh, man. Okay, what we're going to do? And as day was about to dawn, Paul implored them all to take food, saying, today is the 14th day. You have waited and continued without food and eaten nothing. 14 days they couldn't eat. Probably couldn't keep it down. It's been 14 days you haven't eaten anything. Therefore, I urge you to take nourishment. Eat something, for this is for your survival, since not a hair will fall from your head of any of you, fall from the head of any of you. In other words, today is the day. It's about to be dawn. The morning is about to come. In a few hours, we are going to survive. But we got to eat. We got to get our strength up. Because nobody is going to even get hurt so much as lose a hair. So eat up, men, for tomorrow we're going to crash this ship. Paul was crazy, man. And so, eat something. And when he had said these things, he took bread, gave thanks to God in the presence of them all. These were not God believers, but he prayed to God and gave God thanks for the food. He prayed. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. And they were all encouraged and also took food for themselves. And in all, we were about 276 persons on that ship, a lot of people. And when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and threw out the wheat into the sea. We ate all the food that we can, get rid of the rest of the food, throw it out. Let's lighten the ship, get everything off the ship, because tomorrow we got to set sail. We got to try to survive. Paul wanted to crash the ship. They weren't interested in that, but they wanted to try to sail to safety somehow. So we need this ship as light as possible. Verse 39, now when it was day, finally, next day, morning time. Now when it was day, they did not recognize the land. Where are we? They saw the island. They didn't know where they were. They didn't know what island it was. But hey, it's land. Better to be on land than in this water. But they observed a bay with a beach onto which they planned to run the ship if possible. Guys, there's a clearing over there. If we can just get over there, we'll be okay. Let's run the ship into there, and we'll take it from there. And they let go off the anchors and left them in the sea. Just cut the anchors off. Forget it. We're moving. So they cut the anchors off, left them in the sea. Meanwhile, loosing the rudder ropes, they hoisted the mainsail to the wind and made for shore. Come on, dodge the rocks. Let's make it towards there. Make it towards that clearing. Make it towards that beach. And so the wind was blowing. The waves were hitting them. The rain was pouring. The lightning was flashing. But they had to try to get it towards that beach. Cut off the anchors. Loose the rudders. Lift up the mainsail. Let's sail this ship to safety. And then they hoisted the mainsail and made for shore, but striking a place where two seas met. Water from one side. Wave was coming from one side. A wave was coming from one side. Oh boy, this is going to be bad. So it says, striking in the place where two seas met, they ran the ship aground. The water was too shallow, so their ship crashed into the ground. But this was a bad spot because this is where the waves from both sides were hitting them. And so this was a tough situation. And so since it was hitting them, the prow struck fast. The front of the ship was stuck and remained immovable, but the back of the ship was being broken up by the violence of the waves. Guys, it's over. The ship is being broken apart. Move towards the front of the ship. The back of the ship is breaking apart. It's falling apart. It was being broken up by the violence of the waves. Now the soldiers planned to kill the prisoners lest any of them should swim away and escape. The soldiers started thinking, what are we going to do? We got over hundreds of prisoners here. If they escape, this is going to be on our heads. What are we going to do? We were trying to sail there, try to get there to safety, but the ship is falling apart. Let's kill them. Kill the prisoners. We'll just say they died at sea. Kill them, because if they escape, that's worse. Well, at least we have some dead bodies to show. Let's kill all the prisoners. Bad day to be a prisoner there. They just survived the storm, and they're just so close. They could see the land. Now they're out there trying to kill prisoners. But the centurion, wanting to save Paul, kept them from their purpose. Whoa. Let's let them survive. Trying to save Paul. Again, when you're associated with good people, people of God, your life is spared. All those hundreds of prisoners were spared because of one guy, Paul. He wanted to save one guy because he liked Paul. And it kept them from their purpose. It commanded that those who could swim Those who could swim should jump overboard first and get to land. And the rest, some on boards, some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it was that they all escaped safely to land. Jump into the water. Get in there and try to swim. The rest of you, the ship is going down, so grab onto something. Grab onto that driftwood. Grab onto the steering wheel. Grab onto something. Hold on for dear life, and just hope you make it to land. And so swimming, holding on to pieces of driftwood, every single one of them survived. All because they were with a man of God. So you got two options. You can surround yourself with people of God, or better, you yourself can become a person of God. Because if you're a person of God, you don't have to worry about having some person of God bodyguard. Just make sure you're right with God. So many times I hear stories. I know one guy who was running around with a gang, and as they came by with a drive-by shooting, people, his friends to the right hand of him, the left hand of him, shot to death, but he survived. You know, the only way that you know that you are safe and secure is if you yourself are right with God. So no matter what you're going through in life, what storm is hitting you, whatever darkness you're facing, make sure you're secure in God. Because if you are secure in God, He can protect you, He can take care of you, and He can bring His great purposes and plans for your life. But it's up to you to hold on to Him. So take courage, strengthen up, do what it takes to cooperate with God. And God will protect you in your mission to witness for Him. Because God had a mission for Paul, not to survive, but to get his message into Rome, to make it to Caesar. Lord God, you have a mission for us, not to survive and to just live our lives casually and just do what every other American does. You have a bigger plan for each of our lives. You have a plan for a mission. You have people that you want us to reach. Let us not take our mission lightly, and neither let us be afraid of the storms. But let us take courage. Let us not be afraid, because you are right here with us. You're right here to protect us. You're right here to hold on to us so that we can be used by you. But let us be secure in you. Let us build that relationship with you. Because if we are with you tight, as we mentioned yesterday, nothing can separate us from your love. We pray this, God, in the name of Jesus. Amen. Tomorrow is our final day here in Back to Acts series. Tomorrow at 7:30, we're going to look at the conclusion of Acts. We're going to see what it's all leading up to. We're going to find out tomorrow as we read Acts chapter 28. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you tomorrow.